Live. Good morning, guys.
Alright.
Happy Diwali and welcome to the School of Bass podcast. My name is Saurabh Suman. Today, I'm with one of my inspirations. Actually, he doesn't know about it yet, but I'm going to tell him now during the podcast. How are you, man?
Hey, Saurabh, happy Diwali, man. Thank you for the kind words. I'm good.
Nikhil Rufus Raj, thanks for coming to the podcast. Really means the world to me that you're here. And it's interesting that Meg made a post saying that it'd be nice to hear two bass players talk to each other about bass playing. The funny thing is that musicians, when they meet each other, they never talk about music. You know that, right?
True that.
Some crap
True that.
we'll talk about all kinds of world peace
I think
situations and this
life,
and that.
life in general, we talk about, and music comes in later, or maybe our instruments or something. But it's usually about life and just other stuff that we usually talk about.
But with all due respect to Meg, if she's listening, I hope you're listening. We will talk about bass playing a lot. So, man, I mean, you're living in Bombay from the last good 1.5, 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
What
November 2018.
Okay. What made you move to Bombay from Delhi?
Um, Actually, I feel that I had reached the maximum of what I could do in Delhi, as a musician. I felt because I've been playing music in Delhi, say from around 2002. 2002 was the first time I played the first professional show in SPA. I was still 16 then, and played with so many bands, formed so many bands, played so many shows. But I just felt that it's just about that much there, and to progress as a musician. And to be very honest, all my life I've been in Delhi, man. My parents were after my life to like go out and study and go to a different city, maybe in India only, or maybe go out and study. And I was like, no, I like Delhi. This is my place. And
Where are
so
your
I think
roots from, though?
I was born and brought up in Delhi. My mom's from Delhi, my dad's from Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh.
Okay,
And so yeah, I'm a mix of the north and the south.
nice. Yeah, coming back to what made you move to Bombay. So the saturation aspect you were saying. So,
Yeah, I think it was that, and a lot of my friends had been telling me over the years to move to Bombay. Because I used to talk to them about what's happening in Delhi and how things move really slowly there, and as a musician, the growth is only so much. So a lot of friends who had been in Bombay for a really long time, like Donny, Bhan, then a good friend of mine, Anshuman Mishra, also, he moved to Bombay in 2016.
hmm.
So, he'd been there for a couple of years, and he was also telling me that, it just feels great to be in Bombay, being a musician or being part of because, they take your work and what you do, your profession seriously there. And, I wanted to experience that. Because in Delhi, I mean, it's not that they don't take it seriously, but Delhi overall, man, it's a little laid back.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's always, yeah, I mean, it's always, Delhi is always, I felt it's chill. It's like there is no rush, there is no. And so you also kind of become like that, I felt. Like, you also become part of where you're staying and the vibe of the place and everything. And Bombay, it has this electricity, man, this current to it. Like,
Yeah,
it.
it does teach you a lot of new stuff. So when you moved from Delhi to Bombay, immediately you start doing sessions here or you get some sessions. For me personally, it was a huge shock, I would say, in the beginning to see how much you have to suddenly deliver, suddenly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as you said, like Delhi, I wouldn't call Delhi laid back, but yes, the work culture is different. But did you experience any of that? That when you came here and suddenly the way musicians rehearse, the way musicians function, or let's say the TV gig you had for The Voice, did
Hmm.
you feel it as a shock that how am I going to deliver all of this? Or did you think, okay, I'm here now I have to deliver what I'm supposed to deliver?
I think it was a mix of both. I was really happy with the professionalism, and it did take me some time to catch up with it also, but I was also kind of a little prepared for it because since a few years, I've been also kind of disciplined and like kind of figuring out, and if I have to do this properly, I need to be streamlined in my approach. So I think it was a mix of both, where uh, you know I felt like the pressure of delivery is also there, but I felt that it's something I can cope with.
Okay.
It's not that difficult. I mean, considering you're a musician and you do this full time, so I think it was not that difficult for me.
I was kind of I, the new stuff I learned. I wouldn't say I was shocked here, but when you come here, the kind of gigs you basically are delivering for example, there's a lot of production involved in terms of you need to understand and you need to memorize who's going to come when. For example, if you're working for a gig or playing for a gig where dancers are also involved, or
Hmm.
it's some sort of a theatrical thing happening and you're playing with that band, and then suddenly you have to remember all these new things that hey, when that light comes on, that's when you hit these notes, that's when the hits will come. If people
Yeah,
if you,
true that.
yeah, on TV, if people crack a joke, what do you need to do, things like that. And they're very
Yeah.
small basic things, but especially for TV, the amount of alertness you need when you have to deliver in one take, that was a good
Yeah.
experience. That was a very good
It
experience.
was, even for me, the voice was a life-changing experience for me, man. I mean, it kind of encompassed, all the theatrics of entertainment. There was music, there was dancing, there was, the uh, to and fro of comments between the participants and the judges and everything. So it kind of was a very very big learning experience for me. And just to play through, to chart music. I mean, I was doing that because of the sessions I was doing in Delhi. So, but this was to a next level, man. And I mean, I got to learn a lot playing with the musicians that were involved with the voice, especially Adi. I mean, that guy is a rock star, man.
Yeah, he's
He's
really.
he's too good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Full respect. I mean, and to be very honest, before all of this, before moving to Bombay and before doing the voice, I didn't know about Adi, and it's quite surprising. I feel that being in Delhi, that music circuit, you're also it's a ecosystem in its own self. You know what I mean? Delhi, the music scene in Delhi, and it really uh, doesn't know what's happening in the other cities, especially Bombay. People who actually make the transition, or still stay in Delhi but keep coming down to Bombay for work, they still know about it. But man, I didn't know about Adi or the other people that I've met here during my stay here, and it's been a great learning experience actually. And it felt actually that learning experience felt really great to me because when initially when I started, say from say 2002 to say maybe 2008, that learning experience was happening for me in Delhi because I was playing with different bands and meeting new people and figuring out new things, trying new things. I'd say from say 2008 till like 2016, those 8 years, it had become the same thing
Hmm.
for me. So I felt that I should have maybe moved to Bombay a little earlier, but uh, I guess
But
it
then
is what it
again,
is.
the thing is that the kind of the way you get seasoned out there in particularly in Delhi,
Oh, of course,
it's a
of course.
completely different game, and
Yeah,
it's it's amazing the number of gigs you can play and how much you can make happen for yourself, especially your playing quality, your dexterity, and everything.
for
It's
sure,
it's
for
quite
sure.
something. So it did work out for you then in terms of when you're feeling saturated in Delhi, you came to Bombay and you learned new stuff and things
Yeah,
started coming together just the way you imagined them to be, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, uh, it was. I mean, as a musician, I think one needs to uh, come experience Bombay and the way it functions, especially in the music industry. I feel so that I think it's a learning and growing experience if you're a musician in India,
That's
and the
true.
people you meet and the people you work with here.
That's true, man. Give me a
Yeah.
second. There's a bit of a technical glitch. My camera has
No
switched
worries.
off. Just I'm right here with you, and we
No worries. No
should
worries.
be up and running in a second. Sorry, guys. Just give me a second. Add, um, and we should be back in. Shoot. Okay, anyways, so let me
No
ask you
worries.
another thing that I've been wanting to ask you all this while. You were the first bass player I saw. Now here's a time when I was in Shankarlal Hall. You were playing for Superfuzz. I was
Okay.
studying Indian classical music that time. I was doing my
Okay.
Shastriya Sangeet studies and doing my music honors in Hindustani classical. That time
Okay.
I wasn't really playing bass, but I knew the instrument a little bit.
Okay.
S- but I had decided for myself I'm going to only play, uh, or rather sing, Hindustani classical. That time, for the first time, I saw a confident bass player who was playing and who was comfortable with himself. And because it's a trio, right? Superfuzz, and
Yeah.
it's just the three of you. And
Yeah.
how so there's this narrative where you always find the bass player really timid on stage. Uh, I mean, I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have to calm
Yeah.
me down. But
Yeah. Yeah.
my point is that there is this whole narrative where you can almost on if even in people are not standing with their instruments on, you can just stand and stare at a band and tell that guy is the bass player. He's got something going on. He's this, hiding his face, or there's something up.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
This
Yeah.
attitude you developed with your sound, with your presence on stage, when did this happen for you? When did you started feeling comfortable with your sound, that this is who I am, this is how I want to play, I want to be, kicking some ass when it comes to rock bass playing?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think it was in school. Sanchal and I were in the same school, St. Columbus School, guys. And basically, we had formed this band called Copperstoned in school, and we were a three-piece. It was used to be me, Sanchal, and this friend of ours, Shannon. So, and we were really like the outcasts at that time in school, with at least the music society, because in music competitions, usually it used to be about the choir and the group singing and everything. And suddenly here we were three guys who wanted to rock out and destroy stages. And so I mean, it used to be weird, but somehow the music teacher. At that point in time, when I joined the music society in school, used to be Mr. Amit Raj Kashyap. He was the drummer for Nakshatra,
Yeah.
and he was our music teacher. So he kind of saw that, I think, and he was like, "Yeah, man, do it." So what used to happen was we used to participate as the choir, the Columbus choir. We used to
Uh,
do that, and then one song for whatever time was left, we were given that. So man, at that little time we had that was our window to break out. So if my stage presence and my sound has to be given credit to something, I think it's that little window of time, because I used to be still in school. I wanted to rock out, man. So we used to just like kind of be all over the place. We used to do this. We were three-piece, so we used to cover Nirvana. We used to play Lithium, then Breed, and then as quickly as possible. In like 5 minutes, maybe we used to play like three songs or something. Like fadak, so that we can play as much as we want. And for my sound, where you were saying that like for the first time you felt like, man, is bass player ki awaaz aa rahi hai.
yeah, I know.
So I
I
think
heard notes for the first time that, okay, this guy always existed on stage. Of course, there were a handful of other people also, but just your
mm-hmm,
sound, the way. And Venki and I were discussing the same last week when we were coming back from Island City Studios, that it was
mm-hmm.
just something which really like popped out. It was clear, it was clean, and it was on. So please continue. Tell me about
Yeah,
how you
so I
developed that.
think that I have to attribute to Iron Maiden being the first band I got into.
Okay.
you know. And Steve Harris's bass playing, I mean, on all their records, it's so prominent, and that always, because for me also, whenever, I mean, I grew up in a Christian family. Both my parents' side of the families were musicians. My dad had a band when he was in Hyderabad. He used to be the vocalist. And my mom's side of the family, they're all musicians and everything. So I've grown up on a lot of music and like Christian music basically, and gospel kind of, carols and everything when Christmas was on. So the bass was really like, this warm, low kind of in that kind of music. It's not really like, it's always in the background giving the foundation to what, the rest of the things are happening in there. And when I heard Maiden, man, I was like, what the hell is going on?
How
That's
old are
so
you this
good.
time?
I think I was 12. I used to stay in Vasant Kunj, and a bunch of us friends, we made like a band, a colony band. And one of the guys, his name was Ronit. His elder brother was the first bass player for this band called Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So he's the guy who taught me how to play the guitar, actually. And he never charged us any money. He only charged us like some, I don't know, 20 rupees or something to buy like food and cigarettes or something like that, because their parents were traveling that time. So he was like, I'll teach you guys how to play the guitar,
Just
but
feed
you just have
me.
to pay.
Keep me
Yeah,
alive. Just keep me alive.
just make sure I get my chai and my cigarettes. So I was like, yeah, man, for sure. And so yeah, I think the sound, and it's a very funny story how I became a bass player actually.
Yeah.
Uh, I was supposed to be a guitar player. My mom used to call me. There's this Hindi word called jhakki. I don't know if you
I haven't
understand
heard that.
jhakki. Yeah, jhakki means, I think it means sanki or something. Because when I started learning the acoustic guitar, man, I was like, that's the only thing I would do. I would, when we're eating food at the dining table, I would be playing. When I go to take a dump, I'd be playing my acoustic guitar on the pod because that's
Wow.
time, right? So my mom was like, "What the hell is wrong with you? You know, just do what you have to do." And I was like, "No, mom, I want to practice. This is great." So my mom saw that, and then she was like, "So my mom used to work in a radio broadcasting company called TWR, Transworld Radio." So she told me that there is this electric guitar in my office that nobody's been using, and so maybe I can get it for you. I was on top of the world, man, over the moon. I was like, wow, I'm going to get an electric guitar and it's going to be for free and I'm going to rock out. So eventually, my mom gets that guitar. I open the case and it's a bass guitar.
Missing two strings.
Yeah, and I'm like, Mom, this is a bass. This is not an electric, and it's damn strange considering my mom comes from a musical family with everything.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow, maybe because it was a closed case, she didn't open it. She didn't bother to open it. She thought it's an electric guitar, so she just got it home, and I found out it's a bass. So I was like, okay, no worries. I have a bass. I started playing the bass, and somehow, man, it turned out that in my church, the junior choir for kids, they needed a guitar player and a bass player. So I was supposed to play a guitar, and I
Yeah.
got a bass. And my friend, who was supposed to be a bass player, he got a free guitar from somewhere, and we both went to the same church. So it just worked out like that. I became a bass player. He became a guitar player. So, and yeah, man, so I got into Maiden that time, and Steve Harris's bass playing was just like, it had a sound of its own, and I always was trying to kind of imitate and emulate that. So I think my sound has a lot to do with, me kind of getting into Maiden first head on.
Yeah, that benchmark is kind of critical, at times. And it's not about copying though, but you created that thought that I want to sound like this, and then of course you create
Exactly.
your own sound because you are playing your sound. So that whole
Exactly.
question, how to find your tone, how to find your sound, is you set a benchmark. Step two, just start working towards it, and you'll arrive
Yeah.
somewhere, because you
Yeah,
at
for
least
sure.
know what to not sound like, and then you can figure out what to sound like by your
Yeah, yeah.
benchmark.
I also feel like a lot of people say that, man, the tone is actually not in your instrument, it's actually in your fingers.
That's true.
I'm a firm believer of that. Because I've seen, and it happens with me also actually, when I play maybe my bass guitar, the way I've set it up, I get that sound.
Yeah,
And but if I play like another bass guitar, the sound changes. It
it's true.
obviously, but it's also because I'm playing it according, and if some other bass player, it sounds different.
That's
So I
true.
think it's about, your fingers also. The tone is in
That's
there
true.
basically.
We'll just expand on that. There, I told you about the camera issue that I was facing. I'm going to fix it while people watch. I don't have any other option. Guys, I'll just show you also how it's done. So sorry about this. Sorry, man. These things, sometimes they're not in my control, and uh, it just life is full of surprises at times. Technical glitch, like how cables get spoiled on stage. But right now my frame is spoiled. Oh man. The one that captures me from outside. So somehow it stopped working and the frame got disrupted, and that's what the problem is. But we are almost in business. So guys, thank you for cooperating. I'm just fixing this. Give me a second. You know these things happen and you have witnessed a lot of worse scenarios actually. Okay, I think we'll make this podcast work like this and fix yours a little.
Yeah.
Almost there, almost there. Boom.
All right.
Not working yet. Okay, I'm gonna just switch mine off completely, I guess. That's the best thing to do at the moment. Sorry about this, guys. Add NDI. When I'm trying to fix all these things, one of my friends was telling me last time that why do you get so nervous if something stops working? I do freak out. People are
It's
watching.
it's it's only natural, man. I mean,
It's
yeah.
it does
I think
freak me
you I
out.
think you're also doing this for the first time from Delhi, if I'm not wrong, or have you done
Uh,
a podcast from
I've
Delhi?
I've not done it from Delhi, but I've done it from, hey, we are kind of good. I think we can manage with this. Yeah, we should be able to manage with this. Okay. Not even looking at the live chat right now. So, about this sound, there's always, of course, this whole question that how do you set up the bass properly? What's the best way of setting the string action? And this is something very important to understand, that every action sounds different. The thickness of frets will make your bass sound different. And of course,
Of
the way you
course,
touch the instrument is completely different.
of course.
There has been this narrative, Nikhil, always, which is playing bass with a pick. That's something you do a lot, and you get a
Hmm.
very, very beautiful sound out of your instrument.
Hmm.
Have you faced have you come across people who are kind of countering that, or rather, telling you that never play bass with a pick? It's not the right thing to do. And what have been your experiences with that? Has anybody told you not to play bass with the pick ever, or something like that?
No, not for me. Nobody's ever told me not to play with the pick. Actually, there is more definition I feel with the plectrum when you play bass, and uh, it actually I've always chosen playing with a plectrum or with my fingers. It actually depends upon the song, So like I'll give you an example. The song "School" for Superfuzz, I've
Yes.
recorded that with my fingers, but for a song like say Four Times, I've used a plectrum. I mean, because it's also like Four Times is like a punk kind of song. Not that I won't say School is not really a punk or rock song, but it's just that kind of. It depends upon the sound, man. It
Do
depends
you
upon
switch
the
also
song.
sometimes in the middle of the song, playing pick and playing
Actually,
with fingers?
yeah, yeah. For some songs, I did actually.
Hmm.
I've done that sometimes. I think I did that once for a song for The Voice also, if I'm not wrong. I did think I did that. There was this one part that came that was really like quiet and soft. So I just thought, playing with the plectrum during that time would be a little weird. So I would just keep the plectrum and, get back to my fingers. And I think it's nonsense, man. If someone tells you that you shouldn't play bass with a plectrum, I think that's just garbage because it's a sound. It's a different sound than playing with your fingers, and you should utilize as many sounds you can get out of your instrument. Which complement the song or the music that you're doing. So I think that whole narrative of that one shouldn't play bass with the plectrum is wrong.
I
Silly.
agree with you. It's just
Yeah.
that I'm I haven't done it much in my life, and I haven't played much of bass using a plectrum, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not even sure if I can play it if I have to. So that's something I need to work on. But again, I was kind of closed earlier about all these ideas that it's a different sound. I was like, no, always play with the fingers
Yeah,
and
yeah,
can
yeah.
do all kinds of sounds. Like I do the double thumb if needed, but then
Mm-hmm.
if that rigid stiff plastic hits the string, it gives you a
Mm.
completely different sound. And then you can
Of
get a steel
course.
plectrum. That's also
Of course.
another
I've tried
ball
all
game.
kinds of plectrums on the bass. I tried this steel one. That was too sharp for me, actually. I thought I'm going to really enjoy it, but I didn't, to be very honest. I liked the Tortex ones, and I mean, I also don't use the really. There was these stubby plectrums that used to
Yeah,
come, and
yeah, yeah.
when they came out, somebody was telling me, "Man, you should get that. That's completely you." And to be very honest, I didn't like it because when I play, I want some kind of elasticity to the plectrum because I
Some
don't
push
want
and
it.
pull.
Yeah, and to be very honest, actually, I think I started using the plectrum was because when I play bass, I don't have a soft touch.
Hmm.
I play like a little hard.
Yeah.
So I think this happened many years back. There was, I think maybe it was four times and once after, where I was trying to play it and I was kind of struggling. So, I took out a plectrum because I keep my action a little bit high.
Hmm.
Because, as I said, my first bass hero was Steve Harris. After some time, any song I would play, it would actually get that little rattle that Steve Harris gets. So I was like, man, I don't want it in every song. Some songs it sounds cool. So
Yeah.
I actually tried. I was reading some forums on the internet, and I found out that some bass players like say Timmy C from Rage Against the Machine, because he also plays really hard. He kind of raises his string height.
Hmm.
So I also did that, and it actually worked for me because I play so hard and I keep my strings really close to the neck. It kind of gives that fret buzz too much. Some fret buzz is nice, it's musical, but mine wasn't musical, man. It was too much. So I kind of raised my height. And a lot of bass players, man, when they come and they want to play my instrument, the first thing they say is, "Man, what's up with the string height?" And I have to tell you, man, what's up with my hands? you know, so it's like that. So yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
there is no ideal action actually. It's the
it
sound you
actually
want to
it's
generate from your instrument.
everybody is different, and you have to find your sound. Actually, you have to find your comfort zone with your instrument, with your own playing, and it's a mix and match of a lot of different things. It's just not you just sit, you pick up an instrument and it happens. You know what I mean? It's like I found out very recently, Flea, he likes to keep his strings as close to the fretboard as possible.
Oh yeah?
And I found that damn, yeah, he likes it like it should be one basically. He likes it like that. And it works even though he plays really hard, but that's his sound, man. He's kind of figured it out by playing hard and having the strings that close. He, it you just have to sit with it and, give it some time and figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, the Pane Otis and Sam, his bass was like that, was just pasted to the fretboard. And if you would
Hmm.
try to play his bass, you won't be able to play his bass because the action was so low, you'll hit a note, it'll go like, there's no sound coming
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah,
And you'll try to make
yeah.
it softer, but
But if he would play it, it'll
it
sound like musical,
sounds
I'm sure.
sounds beautiful. Sound like a flute if he wants to make it sound like a flute.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
he knows.
Man, that's also a sign of someone who spent time, you know, sitting with his skill and his instrument and figuring, and that's very important. That's very, very
Yeah,
important
he was
actually.
like,
I used to
sorry.
I used to geek out. I used to geek out on this stuff actually. I used to like love like reading forums and figuring out, what my bass heroes are doing and how they're getting their sound. And I used to be a complete nerd. I still am actually. I like nerd out
Yeah,
so many
this
times.
morning I
Like
was
I have to stop
wondering
myself.
that when you came up with your sound, right? There was no internet that time, like it is there right now, and we would just kind of experiment. There was no other option, but I think it worked in your favor only that you don't know exactly what's going on. So from reaching from point A to B, you learn 10 more things. You might have
Of
to use the
course.
10th one only, but you know
Yeah.
nine more things. So it's
Yeah. In the
sometimes
10
kind of
things you
best to not have too much information.
It was like that initially, yeah. As in, like in 2002, there was internet, but that time it wasn't like that. There weren't that many forums or something. So, as you said, in like learning one thing, you learn 10 things. And, sometimes out of those 10, there are things that you never even thought of.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? पता ही नहीं है कि भाई ओह ये भी होता है and you kind of learn it in the process, which is it's great, man. It's a beautiful process, I feel.
So the rock scene in Delhi was really powerful at a time, and you were leading it as a bass player. You were playing with all these beautiful bands, Superfuzz. Then there was Indigo Children. Something happened. I'll just discuss that in a bit. But here's one thing that I used to really enjoy about that time. Because there was no internet, there was not many exercises you could acquire from here and there. So all people knew was that music is a vibe, it's an energy. Any band which played during that time in Delhi would really vibe it out. Meaning, if they have to use arpeggiators, if they have to use psychedelic sounds using their Boss processors, guitars, basses, whatever it takes, the whole focus was on vibe. The whole focus was on soundscapes. That when a bunch of people
Yeah.
enter that club and they're seeing a rock band do something, it was so much about this energy that music generates.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
feel now with all the information, schools and teachers and everybody, it's become something that people do not put themselves on their risk, that risk where they can experiment enough to create a new sound or trust the new sound they're creating?
Um, to certain extent, yes, that is true. Uh, but going back to your point, actually, of when there were bands like, say, maybe Superfuzz or Indigo, Joint Family, Circus, and all these bands in Delhi. I mean, there was internet, but it wasn't like what it is today.
Yeah.
So basically, I knew at least us guys, Superfast guys, and I know for a fact the Joint Family guys, or maybe even like the Undying INC guys, and the other bands that were in Delhi. We had the RSJ forums, man, and religiously we used to go to the RSJ forums after our shows to read the reviews because there used to be a review section there, and it used to be like it was like practice. Like you finish a show, you chill for maybe a little bit post show at the venue. You go back home, you open the RSJ forums, and you hash it out there with people who've written like shit about
Oh
you.
yeah.
Or yeah, man. RSJ forums was, I think, a very, very, very big part of that point of time where bands were coming up, and that energy you spoke about. I think it had to do a lot with the crowd also. You know, rock music. I feel, anyways, performing it, of course, the band on stage, what their stage presence and their act is like, but it also depends upon, like, what you're receiving from the crowd. And at that point of time, I think the response from the crowd was very, like, lively and, very encouraging. And, people would come up to us after shows and really, like, say good things about the show and our music. And I think actually that also made a lot of difference in our performances, because it's just natural, man. If you're hearing good things, about what you're doing with all your heart, mind, and soul, if people come up and say that, it's having that kind of the intended impact on it. So it always used to result in a better performance next time. And I think that whole time was. it was a great time, man. I really miss it because there were bands coming out, and everybody was trying to write original music, and it was a whole package thing because it's not only about writing this music but also performing it and delivering it in a way that kind of talks to the audience. And now I feel it's not that it's happening. People are experimenting with a lot of different sounds, and but it's not happening at that scale, I feel.
Uh-huh.
And I think because the internet also kind of broadening itself, and it's kind of scattered.
Yeah.
It's still there, but I think because first it was like really small, it was a niche. So it was, anything that happened, you'd get to know, and you'd be on top of it, and it'll be like a quick exchange of information. But now, because everything, like your social media, your streaming services, your like there are so many like social media apps, man, I have no idea about. I get to hear about, like, through people. So it's crazy actually. We've just like the levee is broken.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a lot of difference. People are experimenting and people are trying to get new sounds and everything, but it's just I don't know if it's the right word to use, but it's kind of all over the place in a good way, if anything.
Yeah.
But it's just not like streamlined, because I feel a lot many other things are happening. Because at that point of time, I think back in 2006 to say 2009, there were a lot of rock bands were coming out. There was GIR happening. There used to be iRock, and there used to be this show in Chennai called June Rock Out. And so I think because it was like a niche thing, information was shared quickly, and now it's
No,
just
also what we used to do was that, like when I used to, so me, Anshuman Mishra, Ripple, we are childhood friends. So we used to really trip on metal music and all that rock and roll, and
yeah,
we want to hear that. Now you can't find like-minded people by going on a Facebook group that time. So you got to look for them.
of course.
And where do you find them? You either go to a IIT festival like Blitzkrieg or something like that to watch all those bands who come
True.
from all over the country perform Metallica and
Yeah, yeah,
Pantera, and you know how Prehistorica was big that time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Vasav, what a singer, what a band it was. They
True.
were the first ones
Yeah,
to
yeah,
play
man.
Megadeth. So it was quite
Yeah,
exciting. And the whole trip was that the people were just absorbing the attitude of these bands and then performing a cover. It was not about
yeah,
learning the notes because you
yeah.
had such limited information and everybody played music to experience what those guys were feeling. And of course,
Exactly.
those rock stars, if you're trying to, you know, trying to play another a Rage Against the Machine song, or you're trying to play a Megadeth song, you can't play it with some kind of,
Timidness to it.
lukewarm attitude. You gotta imbibe
True
that
that.
attitude. You gotta get it in your system, and then you hit
True
that
that.
note, and then it connects, right? So even I was talking to Nathan about this, that when you play bass, how are you transcribing? What are you learning? And he mentioned that time during the podcast only that he's trying to imbibe the culture. He's trying to replicate the behavior of the bass player. So he literally wants to
Mm-hmm.
copy how does a bass player behave. It's not about notes. It's not just about
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the note length and this
True.
and that, but it's about really absorbing how does this guy behave? How does Pino Palladino behave inside a
Yeah.
band which is playing with D'Angelo? What's his behavior? What is he
True.
thinking? How does he react to something? So that study, this is what was happening back then. That people, when they wanted to play
True.
Megadeth or Deep Purple, it was the same energy, man. I mean, we didn't have access to the
Yeah,
internet to see what it feels
yeah,
like to watch a proper gig. But these
yeah,
guys,
yeah,
they
yeah,
brought it to the table for us that check this out,
yeah.
they are rock stars. We are also mini rock stars in Delhi. And then
Yeah,
same when I hear Superfuzz, that I can get that feeling of how much influence there is from Nirvana, and
of course. Yeah,
how much you guys have done that work, and you want it to be a trio which equals the energy of that time. It's not just about
yeah,
we play rock and roll, we know the notes and we'll play them right and it's all going to be fine. So that's something
Yeah.
really, that's really, I feel that's missing right now. That uh, the person who's practicing a style of music is only practicing the style of music and notes, and kind of not really focusing and absorbing the culture and where those things are
True.
coming from.
True, true. I feel that if anything, that should be happening more now, don't you think? Because, as you said, because of the internet, we have more access to that culture, and where we're trying to get something from a musician that we've grown up listening to and all. And I think that is missing because, to be very honest, when we formed Superfuzz and we were playing and we were writing songs, we used to go to Clyde's to get those concert CDs, man. I mean, of course, you used to buy your T-shirts from
Yes.
Clyde's for sure, but they also has to have these concert, CDs. And but before watching those concerts, we had heard the records and the emotion. And man, I used to feel really overwhelmed listening to Black Sabbath, and I mean, it used to be like a sacred experience, man. I don't know if I can ever put it in words. It's like something just takes, the elders in my church used to say that, you're being taken over by Satan. But then I used to tell them, how can it be so beautiful? And they were like, no, that's because that's temptation. I'm like, man, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I think Black Sabbath is the most Christian band ever there was, actually, to be very honest. But so, it used to be, I used to be taken over by the emotion and the energy of the music, man. And, and that's what I was wanting to always, when I'll be on stage, through my playing, through my stage act or whatever, I would want to be channeling that. So whoever's watching me feels it, you know what I mean? It's all, I feel, man, it's as much, you want to call it hippie shit or whatever, it's energy. It is, what you hear from someone and then you play and then the people take it on, what they do about it and everything. So I feel that I think it's a little subdued now, strangely, because now that we have so much access to, the different cultures and different performances, you can go to YouTube and you can watch any performance under the sun, until and unless you have some copyrights. You know what I mean? Like, copyrights is a new thing now, actually. There were no copyrights issues back then with concerts being put up on YouTube. So I just feel that. Also, I feel, I mean, I might be wrong, but it's in my opinion, in India especially, if any kind of music form uh, kind of starts gathering some popularity, I feel it's put up on this pedestal very quickly. I felt that for us guys also back in 2006, 2010 till 2010, there were bands coming up. I mean, in all humility, I'll say we were good, but we weren't that great. You know what I mean? And I feel that that's happening for hip hop right now. I feel. I mean, I'm not saying these guys are bad or anything, but they are just being regarded as, it's like out of this world, or, I feel sometimes you need to give time to something that's coming up to actually become what it is. Then, first just showering all these niceties and, all these great things. You just need to let it kind of evolve because I think that hinders the evolution. Because I'll just take an example from my experience. I mean, if you were such great bands and they're being great music and all, that kind of trend would have continued. You know what I mean? I feel it kind of burns out too quickly because I mean, if you're great, doing great, what's next after that? You know what I mean? I just feel the burnout happens quickly because you've played all the shows that you could have played. You've done everything, and in India, I feel now it's catching up. The whole culture of making a record and then touring with it. Back in the day, it was, man, I want to play a show. We're recording the music or recording an album can wait. And especially for Superfuzz, man, we still haven't come out with our. We're working on it now,
Yeah.
and hopefully it should happen soon. But that whole culture of, you know, just kind of taking out the music and then touring with it. हमारे यहाँ पे उल्टा होता है actually, मुझे लगता है. पहले हम टूर कर लेते हैं, सारे गाने बजा लेते हैं, एंड बाय जब आता है टाइम रिकॉर्ड करने का, वी लाइक अरे यार ये गाने से बोर हो गए अब, यू नो व्हाट आई मीन.
But man, there's this thing I'm still thinking about, wondering, and eventually, whenever I'm able to execute a proper process for this, which is the whole process of how a band releases the music, what do they do with it to make revenue of it? There is no clear path designed about it. Like for example, if a phone is made, manufactured, sold, released, how much profit will come, how it will be marketed is clear, right?
Hmm.
Is it
Hmm.
going to be a loss making venture or a profit making venture is clear. There are papers about it. Everything is in place for it, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But we don't really know what happens to a band or an artist when they release a song. A song comes out, an album comes out, it might be around for 4 months,
Yeah.
5 months. But
Hmm.
I'm still curious and wondering, and I've been thinking about it. What is the method, right? If I, like today, I've been working on building my school from the last 3 years, the School of
Hmm.
Bass.
Hmm.
When I study books about marketing, creating something valuable for people, I see a path. I see that, okay, if you do this, this helps people, it adds value to their life, then they are
Hmm.
committed to you because end of the day, it's a win-win deal for both people. Then you can continue creating good things for them that help them out and the chain continues. So there's an aspect to it, and people have made products in the past, sold them
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
people, helped them out like any company does. But
Hmm.
I'm still wondering when a band is formed, they release an album. What happens? We have this thing, okay, make your album, tour with it. But are we going to make money? Are we going to have enough revenue that we'll have enough left out to reinvest into the next album? We don't know.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the culture in particular, I'm still, I would say, from what you just said, that it's still figuring itself out. Or rather, somebody somewhere will come up with a system someday that, hey, if you're a band and you want to make something meaningful out of this specific music that you're making and you want to sustain it for the next 30 years, then this is what we're going to do. This is how much we'll keep aside. We might need
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
investor, but we don't know that system yet. All
Hmm.
my worry
Hmm.
with the whole system is because I don't understand it at a personal level. So I'm not the best person to talk about it. But this is an
Hmm.
observation from outside. I'm a session
Hmm.
musician.
Hmm.
I play for
Hmm.
people who invest their time and energy marketing themselves and do a lot of other things. So I'm
Hmm.
hired by them. But I'm still very much curious as to what does a band or an artist actually what do they actually do in order to make sure that their hard work, their practice of years and years all together, when presented uh, to an entity of people or a market, whatever you want to call it, gives them some return. And when I say some, I would particularly say financial or monetary, so that your life can go on and you can make more music.
Hmm. Hmm. Man, in my experience, and this is something I realized, say, not very long time back. I think, say, maybe by 2014, 15, 16, I think I came to the conclusion that in a country like ours, India, if you're doing music and you're not doing film music, you should only do it for the love of it. Stop thinking about monetarily and financial and all, because that's a sinkhole, man. You go down, where you're like, I'm going to make music, I'm going to earn money through this and all. I think because we are a very small niche of what is actually real India. You know, we are inner city people staying in cities where, education is, we've gotten educated, our socio political situation is much different. Like, because, man, I came to the conclusion all the musicians that we've grown up listening to, all the bands, all the records and everything, it's a different system out there. You know what I mean? It's not the same system here. By playing and doing shows and everything, we're kind of aping what was happening there. But we're not following through with everything,
Hmm.
what's happening there. It just stops at maybe just playing shows or maybe being the best live act out there. What happens next after that? Are labels coming in and telling you, here, man, we are giving you a 3 album deal, or that's how it works there, you know what I mean? But that doesn't happen here. So I felt that whole financial aspect of it, if you're doing music for the love of it, you know in our country, you just need to leave it at that. Do it for the love of it. If money happens, it happens. And I also feel that kind of separates you from this expectation. Because what happens is, for all of us, I'm sure for you and I, and whoever's listening and the other musicians, the monetary value of it was not that attracted us to it initially, It was the love of it. It was, this is, wow, man, this makes me happy. This is what I want to do. You know what I mean? And then, the following question comes, okay, now can I sustain myself with it? Now can I, so I think there's that illusion right now that you can sustain yourself with it. I don't think any musician, apart from people who are in the film music
Right.
industry, they can sustain it. I don't think any band as such, there is, I don't think any band in India is only making money through just, their music, or,
Yeah, I think
and,
I think there is something to be innovated there. I would say that.
of course.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but all
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about from the last couple of, not a couple, but at least good 7 8 months, that what is that solution? Like a band as great as Faridkot comes, and but it's almost like it comes, it's there, but it's also not there at the same time. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying?
Isn't it strange though? Yeah, I completely, and that I find it really weird. I find that really weird. Why is that happening? And that's why I feel, man, because I can probably count, all the cities you can tour, you know, in India on my fingers. That not that many cities you can tour, being, until and unless you're like a Hindi band, say Faridkot. But Faridkot also, a band like Faridkot also hasn't played like, that many, maybe tier two cities or something like that, because it's still a
But
niche.
still,
It's like,
it kind of breaks that norm also. That, see, you were saying that there's this independent aspect of music. Now, Faridkot is independent music, right? At its core.
hmm, hmm,
But some time back, I was talking to IP as to how the booking terms, especially when it comes to the money aspect of things, it's completely different from the regular club gig, right?
hmm,
It
hmm,
pays in a
hmm,
very
hmm,
different manner. So,
hmm.
would you say that the path, when you guys sat down in the beginning deciding, and when you realized that you guys have a special sound, or you need to create a special sound, you need to write certain songs that people relate to, like Lala, and release an album like Ek, where everything is
Hmm.
going to change towards people liking you so much that no matter where you show up, the club is going to get full. No matter where you show up, the venue is going to get full. Everybody's going to make enough money. The band gets paid much, much higher than the regular bands, and things work in
Hmm.
favor of everybody. Was this a plan
Hmm.
ever with Faridkot?
I think it was. I wasn't part of Faridkot when Ek was released,
Yeah.
but I think initially that was. I came in actually when the second album, Phil Say, was released, and it was quite the opposite of what happened with Ek, because when Ek was, I think, written, the band was, in a certain place, as people together trying to make music. And when Firse happened, they kind of progressed. I also feel, people in our country, audience, they don't take very kindly to the evolution of a band. You know what I mean? If, like, for example, Faridkot, they took out Ek. I think all of the songs were like hits in there. There was Lela, there was Meherban, there was, all these songs there. And, everybody liked those songs. And suddenly, Firse came out, which was a much, much, much different from what Ek was. More psychedelic, more little rock, and, more theatrical, with the harmonies and the phrasings and everything. And I would see people at shows and they'd be like, what the fuck just happened? You know what I mean?
Wow.
It would, yeah, it would take them time to because they have come with the expectation of music like, oh, what ache was,
Hmm.
you know? So that's why I'm saying there is that gap, a big gap between, how the music industry evolves, how bands evolve, how music evolves, and what the audience. I mean, it's a lot to do with where you are, the socio-political, uh, certainties of the place and
So do you
everything, and
think it's
it
it's the
just
people or the culture, or do you think the bands or artists can do something about this?
it's a mix. It's a mix actually. So that's why I say the only thing a band or artist can do is just keep doing it for the love of it. I think that's what it is. I think money and all will come later. You know, I think you should focus it like that, because if you start worrying about the financial aspect of it too soon, you'll stop doing it eventually. You'll stop making music and all, because you won't find like, hey man, I can't sustain this. You know what I mean? So for sustenance, I think there should be something else. And for like, what you want to do, what gets you going, what knocks your socks off,
Yeah.
you need to like do it for the love of it,
Yeah.
I feel.
That's why a lot of
Because,
musicians, sorry, I'm cutting you, but a lot of musicians
no,
do this.
no,
They play Bollywood gigs and they do their independent stuff.
yeah, yeah. The Bollywood is for the, paying the bills, and their stuff is because, that's what they are about. So I think it's a great balance, I feel. I know a lot of people who don't do that, but hats off to the people who do that, because, I mean, being a musician, man, I think I can say in all fairness, nobody, when they picked up an instrument or picked up, I want to be a Bollywood musician. Nobody, starts playing an instrument for that. They always say, I want to be a musician. And then, you figure out, oh, I like this kind of music and I want to play this, or I like, film music, I want to play this.
Hmm.
First, you always do is, I want to be a musician. So I feel that yeah, I mean, people who can strike the balance between, playing for Bollywood acts and still be doing their own music, man, that's awesome. That's great. Striking that balance is really good.
Yeah, but there are people who actually, Nikhil, think about just being a Bollywood musician, that they want to study music so that they can play Bollywood tomorrow. That's also there. But then,
Yeah.
sometimes they need to be pulled out of it. Like they need to be shown that where is Bollywood music actually coming from? Because a lot of Bollywood music, especially the one which is produced right now, a lot of it,
Mm.
I wouldn't say a lot, but I would say some of it is also wrong. Like there are chords which are wrong. Like there's
Bass, especially bass
I know.
lines. Bass lines
It's
are
like there's a
going
C
somewhere.
major
Yeah, yeah,
playing, C majors, and this bass is playing B against it, and you're wondering
yeah,
what's going on. And so
yeah,
it's been very confusing. In the beginning, I thought I lost my chops, like my ear training chops, because
yeah.
whenever I have to take out a Bollywood song from a recording, then I know that a regular song produced outside, I'll take half an hour to finish everything off, write a chart, learn bass parts and everything.
Yeah,
But Bollywood songs take time to learn. But
yeah.
getting to that point where there are people who want to just do Bollywood for their entire lives. But again,
But I think, sorry, sorry,
yeah,
sorry. I think that's also because that's all they've been, exposed to.
yeah, right.
That I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's what I'm saying. They have not actually heard of other music, or maybe they've heard, but they've not wanted to explore, or for whatever reasons, what's all that about. Because I feel if you're born in India, it's force fed to you. Bollywood is force fed to you. And I mean, it's not something you can do anything about it. It's there. You switch on the TV, it's film music, it's actors on shows, and it's all about that's the kind of culture we are in.
Did you know some
It,
people think the actor sings the song that ये शाहरुख खान की आवाज है?
of of course, I used to think like that as a kid.
So
Of
nice.
course, yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course.
As
That's
yeah,
it's also, I think, man, it's Bollywood is also so different from the actual reality of life in India. I think that's why it also mesmerizes our population so much, that, this make believe world. I think our imaginations can really like run wild with it, you know what I mean? So it's, I think, a lot to do with that also. And that's why I agree with you. A lot of people, because they just want to be Bollywood musicians, because I think they've just been exposed to
Yeah,
that.
but
And I think we,
the
people from cities, like, with, I remember at one point in time, my mom, she would not let me buy any Hindi comics.
Hindi.
Yeah, she would not let me buy Nagraj, Doga, all these things. And I'm like, why, mom? All my friends in school have the. She's like, no, I'll buy you Archie. You improve your language,
Uh,
you improve your English. I think at that point in time when I was in school, growing up in the 90s, this whole thing of, knowing English, because we had kind of opened up our markets or something. I don't know. My mom really wanted me to get really good at English. So I think it has to do with, where you're from and, what kind of social situation you're in, and that kind of depends, that kind of factors a lot in what you want to do.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that the greatest Bollywood music that is being made right now, which we enjoy listening to and even relate to, as let's say anybody, any layman can relate to, is actually made by some serious non-Bollywood musicians who have no idea about what Bollywood is, maybe, like Shankar Ehsaan Loy, for example. I mean, think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Vishal Shekhar. Like Vishal is
yeah.
pentagram, full on rock vibe, energy and
That guy is, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and IP has been writing lyrics for a lot of musicians these days, music directors particularly, Salim Suleiman, and he was mentioning a few others. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, you have cracked into a very interesting zone because he's a very unique guy if you think about him as a writer, as a lyricist. And of course, he has his
Of
singer
course.
career going on. Because what happens is, I was saying that you have controlled crowds of thousands of people because you have done those kind of gigs where you're standing on a stage and performing as Faridkot, and everything is energized. You understand when you speak a word out what it is going to do to people, right? Because you have
Mm.
seen it
Mm.
looking eye to eye, just seeing into people's eyes actually as to what experience they're going to go through when you say even a word like Lela or whatever it is. So
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you are going to write lyrics for songs, and all these music directors are just really enjoying his writing, he was saying. And last week only I was talking, he's like, they're really enjoying it and they're recommending me everywhere, and I'm like, of course they will,
Mm.
because
Yeah,
you're a evil combination. You know what is going to
yeah,
shake people's souls, and I'm only now
yeah,
waiting for more music to come out that he's written lyrics
yeah,
for, and been part of
yeah.
composing it, or whatever his job exactly is there. That's going to be
True,
very
true.
special.
Yeah, man, actually, IP is a great example of that, because IP is someone who's grown up on. He actually said it once. We were chilling together once, and somebody played, I think, Massive Attack or something, and IP was like, "Wow, man, this is some great stuff." And that other person was like, "What? You haven't heard of Massive Attack?" And IP was like, "No, man, I grew up on Doordarshan."
Yeah.
So IP actually, like when you were saying, when you say words like Lela or something, what will happen? IP was actually one of those people growing up, experiencing, when those words being said. So he actually kind of, I think IP is a great lyricist and a singer. And actually, I have sent him a song to write lyrics to, which he hasn't completed. So I'm gonna give him some grief for that. But uh, he's too good. I think his lyrics, his delivery, his singing, it's just top class. And I think it's also become better because, as I said, first he was just exposed to film music, Doordarshan, and growing up Bollywood, and then once he found out about other music types of music that there are, and once he heard them, and I think he incorporates all of those things into this aesthetic, and that's what is great. And I think that is what is working for him,
Yeah.
if people are recommending him, because it's not the traditional Bollywood style. It is aesthetically that, but he's taking, different aspects of the different music he's been exposed to and incorporating in that. And that I think works best, man. I think that actually works best for any kind of music, to be very
That's
honest.
true.
If you can take the good bits from, everything and add it to that particular music.
I think also, at times you got to uproot yourself from your comfort zone and plant yourself in some challenge. and you got to do it
Sure.
consciously. And Sanjay Devecha was mentioning this in the podcast that how I was asking him that do you tell musicians, artists to plant themselves into challenges where they struggle a little, and when the struggle is conscious, no, you can derive more lessons from it. Of course, there are struggles that life generally gives you anyways, but
Mm.
but when you're planting yourself into struggles, like for example, when a musician chooses to leave Delhi and go to Bombay and work there as a musician, of course you're going to face a lot of hurdles, a lot of struggles, but the lessons are invaluable. Like you can't learn it sitting at home unless you
True, man.
change your environment. It is very
True,
very
true.
it's something that life is going to teach you tons of things. So that
Yeah.
that thing where IP, of course, changed his complete environment, moved from Delhi to Bombay, and a lot of other musicians who, all of us who have moved to Bombay now. I mean, there have been struggles like right in your face, and sometimes you can mention them, and sometimes you gotta be, at your professional chair, holding yourself together that I don't know how I'm going to remember all these hits, but
Yeah.
now I got to do it, and the recording is on,
Yeah.
and the DOP has said camera, lights, action,
Yeah.
and you are
Yeah.
looking at that
Yeah.
chart and you're thinking, I have no idea what hits are there. And but
So
when you're in
relatable.
that
Yeah.
in that situation, that's when those neurons fire up, unless you put
True.
yourself into that situation.
True. True.
Which reminds me that you and Superfuzz had a very specific schedule to rehearse together as a band, right? And you would make
Mm.
sure that there is not just room-based practicing happening, that everybody's in the house. You actually moved together, right? All of you to play and practice a lot
Yeah,
together.
yeah. So back in 2004, we had just started college, and Aditya, our drummer, we had just found him because the guy who was playing with us before, he moved to Canada with his family. So Aditya was in SRCC. He was doing BCom honors there. I was in DCAC. I was doing Pol Science honors, and Sanchal was, I think he was doing history honors from Hindu, and then he came to sitting in my college because he was like, man, that shit is too serious. So we used to actually rehearse because we had college. We used to rehearse from 6 in the morning till 9 in the morning
Mm-hmm.
before college. We had this somehow, man, Sanchal's mom, she had figured out old, like these, those houses in CP, these MLAs get,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like those white ones.
yeah.
So she found this person who owned one of them, and it was run down. It was a rundown building, and she said she had figured out we could go and practice there. So we had taken all our equipment there in this rundown house in CP, put our stuff there, and we used to rehearse from 6 in the morning till 9 in the morning. Go to college. After college, then come back to that place, then rehearse till like 8, 9 again. We did that for a good 2 years, man. We did that from like 2004 to 2006 because playing music, destroying stages was the only thing we wanted to do at that point in time.
Truly did that, man.
And then, yeah, and then once in 2014, we all moved together. We took up a house. We used to call it the Fuzz House. And Johnny had made his cabin inside it. So we recorded two of our EPs there. The album that's going to come out also has been recorded there only. Then we used to rehearse there, and man, yeah, staying together with your bandmates doing that, that's a great experience. I mean, I always wanted to do that because I heard Aerosmith did that when they started out. They moved, they were from some different place and then they moved to LA, I think, and they got a house together and they used to practice for 18 hours a day.
Hmm.
That's crazy, man. But that's what made Aerosmith Aerosmith, you know what I mean? And that's what we wanted to do actually because we realized that we want to do that and that is not the culture in our country, you know. But if you want to get to what they're doing, maybe we need to do this. Little did we know that it takes a lot of different other things also to get to,
Khana bhi
you
khana
know.
hai.
But I
You will
think,
not find a person
हाँ,
who's going to get you chai and milk and cigarettes and
yeah, अरे ये सारी चीजें तो we were like total man. We were just like very focused that time. I wish I have that focus and discipline now, but for a bunch of like 16, 17-year-olds, the kind of Man, I don't think any band was rehearsing at 6 to 9 a.m. I don't think any, even the pro bands at that point of time weren't do, because we kind of figured out that that's some time we can use.
Mm.
So we're just like, man, fuck it, let's just go from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And my mom used to say, are you sure? वहाँ पे लोग नहीं है, उनको problem नहीं होती होगी. So I used to tell her, नहीं mom, there is nobody there.
Wow.
That's the great thing, yeah. So I used to wake up. I actually used to wake up at 5, and by 6 we used to be there, man. Strange. To come to think of it, I did that at one point in time. It's real strange for me. But yeah, that was what Superfuzz. And I think it kind of paid off, man. Wherever we went, we won everything. And, everybody used to be, always talking about our performances. And I think it was not because we were some great musicians or virtuosos and all, but it was just practice. We practiced hell lot, man, like crazy, like a lot.
Man, it really
Yeah,
pays off. Definitely find sound, like you start experimenting a lot, no? Then you have time to do that. And that's what pays off
of
end of
course,
the day. And
of course, of course.
Adil and Vasundhara, back in the day, that was the trend that we would
Hmm.
meet to rehearse irrespective of gigs. Now things are different,
Hmm.
for the bands I play for now, it's mostly that okay, there's a gig, so let's rehearse.
That's I feel is really wrong, but that's the culture, man. I mean, I tried to change it, but you can only take it that far. But that's how it should be actually. Rehearsals should only depend upon if there's a gig or not. If you're a band, you play music, show or no show, man. You get into it because a lot many things. You can write some new music. You could experiment. You could do so many different things. But I think that culture has kind of totally disappeared, I think.
Yeah, I mean, see, Gino and Sheldon did that. Definitely. They spent, with Sangeet, they used to spend about 8 hours a day
Mm,
together. And it pays
mm.
off. Now they sound
For
like
sure.
one person,
Of course. Yeah,
Gino
yeah,
and
yeah, for sure.
Sheldon together, Geldon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice one. Yeah, yeah. For sure, man. Yeah, you hear them play. It sounds like, they have spent a lot of time together. And it happens, man. It happens because when we kind of transitioned into Indigo Children, we used to do the same
Hmm.
thing. And Sahil Mendirata was the drummer. Man, that guy is my Bonham to my fucking John Paul Jones, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So there are many times now that I play with Sahil, even though I've not played with him so almost like for 3 4 years. But I'm sure if play with him tomorrow, we'll be able to do things without really talking to each other, and that is special, man.
That's true.
That is like that's magic actually. It's actually magic. I have no explanation for that, but it's just spending time with another musician, jamming, playing music. You understand what the other guy is going to do, and
Your
just like
brains
play
get
off that. And
intertwined. Your brains get intertwined.
for sure, for sure, that one consciousness, again, that hippie shit, one conscious, it's actually true when you're playing music with people for so long. That happens.
So you have taken a huge risk. You have come to Bombay. There's a risk involved, of course. Do
Of
you ever
course.
worry about if things don't work out? What are you going to do? And do you have a plan B?
Uh, I mean, man, I'm a kind of a firm believer of being at it
Mm-hmm.
because, in my experience, as I said, when we used to rehearse from 6 to 9, then finish college and come back, rehearse the whole day again. I think in my experience, in my life, I've seen that if you're at it, you know, it's bound to happen because being at it means you're kind of honing yourself, you're kind of sharpening your skills, taking out what's unnecessary and, gaining new things. So I think, to be very honest, I don't have a plan B as such. There are a lot of different things I'm working on. I've actually started writing some tunes with Anshuman, and we're trying to figure out how to get a singer on that and maybe release that music and everything. So I wouldn't say there's a plan B as such, but yeah, man, it's a big risk uprooting yourself from your. Yeah, as I said, Delhi was like everything for me. Born, brought up there, and uprooting your life from there and coming to Bombay, which is a different culture altogether.
Hmm.
It's a big risk for sure, but I think if you're serious about what you do, you just need to do it, man. There is, and I think uh, with a place like Bombay, it's bound to happen. It might take some time,
Right.
but if you're dedicated to what you do, you're disciplined, and you're good at what you do, it's bound to happen, man. It's very rare from the experiences I've heard from people, and from what I've seen, that people who are good at what they do, they are not taken into the whole industry or the scene here. So I'm quite hopeful, man. It's just that COVID had to happen right now
It's a tough one.
and derail. Yeah, it is a tough one, man, but it is what it is. Life is always going to be like this. So I just feel just like, because of the unpredictability of life, if you're going to just give up on things, I think that's,
Life is too boring then.
uh, yeah, it is. I mean, then it's no point then, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Dude, Nikhil, I have to, of course, talk to you about a gazillion things today, but today being Diwali, I think people also have to bounce. I also have to bounce, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you also have a
Yeah.
limited window
Yeah.
today. Thank you
Yeah.
for inspiring me. I mean, I can never forget that gig when I saw it happen in front of my eyes. The energy, everything was great about it. And see, you made me change career paths. So it's gone that far for me.
Oh, man. Means a
So
lot.
thank you for that, and thank you for grooving so hard.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
being real.
Thanks for having me, Saurabh.
This has been a pleasure for me. So we're gonna do one in person in some time,
For
maybe
sure.
I don't know, a few months or something. And
For sure.
whenever things come together nicely, COVID goes away slowly, whatever the path God has decided for us, and we'll make this
Yeah.
happen again. Thanks, man. Stay blessed, and
Thank you. Thank
we'll
you.
meet again. Happy Diwali. I'm gonna hang up the call
Yeah,
now.
same to you. All right.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Guys, thank you so much for coming to the School of Bass podcast. My mic stand has also broken for some reason, but today is just, I think, that kind of a day when things are falling apart. Anyways, I'll see you next week. Bye bye. Lots of love to everybody who came, and very grateful to everybody who came. I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.